What's up guys, it's Zero to my Kitsune, and this week our mod selection is going to be a Bodyslide preset, two camera mods that I think are pretty cool, and some cybernetics theme mods, maybe if you want to do a Mega Man style playthrough. So let's get started. For our first mod, you may notice that my testing character is looking a bit different. That's because I got bored with the old Bodyslide preset and decided to try out something new. So this is going to be a short mod example because there's not much I can talk about Bodyslide presets, but here we go. Bodyslide preset for Miku by Menalino is a personalized Bodyslide preset the creator made for one of his playable characters. Sorry about that. And I just thought it looked pretty nice. It's very, not realistic and all that other such, but I thought it was pretty nice. So I decided to rock with this for a little while. In a moment after I get done with looking at all these angles for y'all, I will show y'all what it looks like in different body shapes in the character creation engine. And here we are. The lighting is terrible, but you can see we're already near the center with the default, but if we move it over to the more extremes, you see how it gets a little bit thin. I don't like that. And you can move it up to the muscular. That looks pretty nice. And then you can move it to the large, which again, Personally, I think it looks best sitting at the very middle, and I'm pretty sure that's where all the people who make these Bodyslide presets are basically thinking about, since that's the default. So that's about it with this one. Though I will say this is going to go very nicely with the other mods in today's selection. This next mod is not necessarily because Bethesda messed something up or anything. I include it simply because I like more options, and what's wrong with that? In-game third-person camera config. In-game third-person camera config by MrSaitama adds the ability to manipulate the camera around the player in-game instead of having to go through the INI files and all that mess. Personally, I think it's a feature that all Bethesda games should have at this point because every person likes their cameras in a different way. But anyway, when you first turn on the mod, you'll suddenly gain access to this new holotape, Settings Third-Person Camera Config. Going into it gives you these three options: customize the camera, self-explanatory; customize FOV, which is natively disabled; and danger zone. Danger zone is simply just a fancy way to say I want to uninstall the mod. See, nothing special. Customizing the camera gives you options to change what it looks like when you're just standing around, what it looks like when you're using a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, that vanity spin. I'm pretty sure it's the spin around when you stand still for like 20 seconds straight, or to reset them all to the default settings. When customized FOV is enabled, you can now change the FOV from the default 70 all the way into the hundreds. I'm not going to run around or anything because some people watching this might get motion sickness or something, but as you can see, I can see a much wider field of view. But if I go into my third person, it goes right back to normal. That is because I have my first person view set at 100, while my third person still sets at the factory default 70. All these options are pretty self-explanatory. You can change the angle on the x-axis, increase or decrease by 5, change on the y-axis, or change on the z-axis. Now, an interesting way to use this mod is to emulate camera angles from other video games. So I'm going to try to do two real quick, one being the third person mode from Overwatch and the second one being Resident Evil Revelations. And here's kinda what you get if you're trying to emulate Resident Evil Revelations. I don't have a picture on me to make sure this is picture perfect, but if I remember correctly, you could see more of the character's legs and more out. It'd probably be better to set the default to have you zoomed out and centered a little bit towards the left, but you can see where I'm going with this. And as for the Overwatch one, I guess this is kinda right. Again, a lot of these are subjective, but in the Overwatch one it was a lot more drawn back. Actually, the camera was a little bit more aimed towards the ground. There we go. Yeah, you could see the feet of the character when they were moving for the most part. So this would be it, but here you're seeing the potential of this mod. Finally, it's a way in-game to get the camera the way you want it to be. As a bonus, I also tried out in the melee one, so you could get a kind of Reinhardt-y feel with the melee weapons, where your camera is completely centered, so that's pretty cool. Like I said, you can do a lot of things with this. You can basically do whatever you want with the cameras now. Moving on, we have a mod that's more meant just to increase the viability of the third-person camera mode in general, because we obviously know that the general consensus is you play Fallout 4 in first person. Because that feels where Bethesda put more of their effort in. So why even use it? Well, this mod. State-based automatic camera switching by, once again, MrSaitama, adds a bunch of options that cause you to go into the third-person camera and sometimes first-person camera, depending on the situations that you put forth. Now, I'm going to show a simple demonstration of it. Change your gun. Boom, you're in first person. Go to melee, boom, you're in third person. Very simple, very effective. Now let's configure it. Checking your inventory after installing this mod, you will see a new item called Playing with SACS. This is the options menu for state-based automatic camera switching. You get your settings and once again a goofy little thing that basically means uninstall. Going into the settings, you can set the default. It functions similar to the last mod in the way the menus are set up. So we'll go into customize switching and boom, here are all your options. When you're sprinting, switch third person. I can switch that to say when I'm sprinting do nothing, or when I'm sprinting go into first person. But for the sake of this mod's example, we're going to stick with everything in the defaults. You can change them to either be nothing, first, or third. We've got sprinting, go to third, sneaking, do nothing. I'm actually going to say go to third on that one. Using melee, go to third. Using ranged, go to first. Using unarmed, you know, those melee weapons, go to third. Sitting, switch to first. And then your defaults and resets. Exiting the menu, you can see what that results in. Now you go into third person whenever you're sprinting, switching to your ranged melee weapon, and even when you're crouching. This adds a bunch of usability to the third person camera. Personally, I like the whole sprinting one the most, as it is the least affected by some of Bethesda's weird decisions. Because a good example of third person just being kinda garbage is your movement. If you ever noticed, whenever you're using a melee weapon in third person, you're kinda stuck in the animation, you can't move around. You don't have that problem in the first person mode. Don't know why Bethesda decided to do that. Hopefully in the future we can get a mod to fix that. But until then, this mod actually functions pretty well. Our only weapon mod for today's episode isn't anything special or revolutionary. It's simply a pretty cool idea, and I hope that maybe either the mod creator expands upon this at a later date, or potentially someone else comes up with a similar idea that just goes a little bit further. ArmLaserGun by M adds in a Mega Man style gauntlet gun that is statistically basically the laser gun, but again, it's a pretty cool concept. This weapon can be crafted at the chemistry station under the miscellaneous category and requires not necessarily a steep investment, though you will need things like nuclear material, gold, fiber optics, etc, so it won't be something you can get at the beginning of the game. As for the modifications, again, it's the standard fare for what is essentially a laser pistol strapped onto your arm. You have the standard, photon, beta wave, blah 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 blah, boosted, overcharge, all that fire damage, etc. The barrels, again, like I said, the categories are all the same, but I just like how cool some of these look, such as a sniper barrel or the automatic barrel. They're just pretty interesting to see. I'm actually gonna add on the sniper barrel for the weapon demonstration later on. The magazine, that's probably where this is mostly unique, as the magazine's actually on the bottom of the gun. And adding more magazines, I'll add extra large real quick. You can, you'll see anything, but you can see in the little corner over there that it actually adds little fusion cores to the bottom of your gun. Again, you'll see it when I go into the demonstration. Scopes, I don't know why you'd put a scope on an arm cannon, but you can if you want. And the muzzle, again, the standard stuff. I'll throw a machete on because the machete actually looks pretty cool. And this is legendary compatible. You can put legendary mods on it if you have legendary modification, and obviously no grips because it's strapped onto your arm. Voila! This is our resulting weapon. And from the first person, this is our resulting weapon. Here are the animations. The reload's a little bit funky. See, you saw your hand clip through it, but whatever. The reload in third person isn't much better because, yeah, you just see the fusion cells floating around. Again, it's pretty cool though to have basically a machete strapped onto your arm. And finally, let's go kill us a bear with this, or at least attempt to. Most of the time when I try this, I end up dying. Yeah, a fully evolved one does pretty decent damage. And oh man, we're actually gonna kill the bear. And let me see if I can attempt to get us a VATS kill with this, so you can see what it looks like in VATS. Or I could die, that's an option too. And there you have it. Like I said, not the most creative mod. Essentially, it is still a laser pistol, but I do like the idea, and it kind of looks pretty cool in first person. For our last mod, we're going to have to go all the way back to the starting point, Vault 111. Here you will find a little cellar addition called Sol's Surgical Bunker. Inside, you will find the starting point for the cybernetics mod, Sol's 6000 Implants by WhatIsSol. This adds in a new little operating chair which allows you to implant yourself with a bunch of mechanics which function essentially as new perks. But to do that, as right now this chair functions and does nothing, you must first read this terminal, which will give you a bunch of lore and a bunch of information. But after doing that, you find Time to Take a Trip, which will start a quest mod to find the operator to allow you to get these implants. Now, I'm not gonna go through all that on video because it's a fun little exploratory quest and I don't want to spoil that, so we're just gonna skip over to cybernetics. Okay, back from that, the mission itself isn't all that complex. It's simply trying to get to an area and find a thing. It does put you through some interesting enemies, but that's about it. As far as the robotics though, once you get what you need, which is this holotape, you can insert it in and boom. Now you can apply the operations. Each one gives you a different type of perk and can be upgraded, I think, 3 times. So leg augmentation, it has all this lore stuff, and you can see first procedure, second procedure, third procedure. And all these cost caps, don't know why, there's nothing, I don't think there's a real lore reason for those. I guess maybe it's a robot doing the operations. See, you can select different operations. You can actually select an operation from the chair, but otherwise you can just choose from the computer. Except that it'll eat away like thousands of caps and you get your operation. Boom, you've acquired a cybernetic, which is effectively just another perk, but added in a very lore friendly manner. Now I have a lower sprint cost, but that's boring. Let's try to get another one. Go through the procedure again. Oh yeah, that's another thing. You can only get a certain amount of implants per level. This is configurable inside of the, where is it? Yeah, bionic controller. You can configure this inside of its own holotape. And simply disable the implant limit for this video. I'd recommend keeping it in there because the implants are pretty powerful. Honestly, I think it'd be really cool if you found a way to either make it so maybe you need to repair the implants as you have them to bounce them off, so if you take too much damage they get broken inside you or something. But for what is presenting right now is just fine in my opinion, especially if you're using the survival playthrough, which balances a lot of this junk out. Getting 4,000 caps in survival and staying alive in that process is pretty difficult. But boom, we have all 3 implant levels. Operation was successful. That cost me about 12,000 caps. And in the perks menu, we can see I have all these perks. Souls Leg Augmentation 3. You can scale it down to see all the different buffs. And voila, you're now a cyber soldier. Now if only someone could make a Bionic Commando mod. Hope you enjoyed this mod selection. Remember, if you liked any of the mods shown, please make sure to endorse the mod creators. I know some act like it doesn't matter much, but just any sign of appreciation is good when someone's creating something. Either way, I'll see you next time.